welcome back to our little wrap-up video here. We have successfully conquered the red and then the white cities here on our solo conquest playthrough video series, and we have wound up doing a pretty remarkable job as far as I'm concerned. Tovak has acquitted himself very well, and the numerous corpses he has left in his wake are a testament to his greatness, of course. And the cheering masses, as evidenced by our staggering reputation here, are indicative of the fact that bloodlust and conquest are a surefire way into the hearts and minds of the people. So let that be a lesson to all of you youngsters out there. So let's get into the scoring here. Quit being an ass and tally up the points here. Now, the way the scoring works is I'll speak in general terms, and then I'll talk about solo scoring because they are a little bit different. What you have on the scoring card, and this is showing both sides of the scoring card. So when I refer to the left or right, each of these is one side of a card when you actually have it in your hand. So on the left-hand side here would be one side of the card. I'll call that the first side. So on the first side, you have your achievement bonuses. Per the scenario description, we are scoring the achievement bonuses, but we are not achieving titles that go along with it. Now, the way the titles work, the way all of this works is you take a category, for instance, greatest knowledge. And the way this is working is for each player at the table, at the end of the game, you look at your deck, and for every spell card you have in your deck, you get 2 points of fame. For every advanced action card, you get 1 point of fame. You add that to your total. Okay? In this case, our starting total is our ending fame. In co-op, I think you take the lowest of the fames available. So whoever has the lowest fame is your starting score. In competitive, each person is using their own fame as a starting point. But of course, in solo, there's only one, and you just use that. Now, for each of these categories, you find out how many points you are adding to your total, whichever total you're talking about here. And in the case of co-op, I believe you pick whoever has the best and add that then to the lowest total. I could be wrong about that. I play mostly solo, so that's where I'm going to be most confident about this. But basically, when titles are in play, I think that's mostly in competitive, you are looking at whoever has the most fame granted to their final score in virtue of the points being added. So in the case of greatest knowledge, whoever is getting the most points for spells and advanced actions added together, that person gets +3 additional points for having the greatest knowledge. So everybody gets knowledge points, and then one person gets the greatest knowledge, and then runners up get +1 for being, I guess, second place, and so forth. But in solo, we are not grabbing the titles. We are only grabbing the points for having knowledge. So I get the 2 points per spell, I get the 1 point per advanced action, but I'm not getting 3 or 1 for the little trophy here on the side. Same thing would go for greatest loot, greatest leader, greatest conqueror, greatest adventurer, and then you lose points for the greatest beating. That would be number of wound cards that you have you're still hanging on to. Whether they were in your hand or the discard pile or your D deck at the end of the game, doesn't matter. You're still hanging on to them. They're -2 each. And then the person who has the most loses 3 for their little title. If you are looking then at the second card here, the right-hand side, the second side of the card, you have rules for scoring for conquest and for co-op and solo scenarios. Now, when you first look at this, you might think, oh, conquest scenario, this was solo conquest, so I get the scoring for conquest. I'm not going to take the title, but I get the scoring for conquest, and then I get the scoring for the solo. But the scenario description makes it fairly clear to me that you just take the solo scenario, and the conquest here is for competitive conquest instead. I'm pretty sure that's the way this is supposed to work. So there's no title or city leader fame on the table for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my D deck and just kind of work through these categories for the achievement bonuses. And then we'll wrap up by looking at the solo scenario bonuses. And that will leave us with our final score. So the first thing we want to do is take our D deck and figure out what kind of cards we have in there and separate them. I don't know what just happened there. Separate them into their various categories. So we're going to have artifacts, spells. Basic cards are not going to factor into the scoring. And these are all basic cards. They started in my deck, so they're not worth anything to me. And that's an advanced action. Mana Draw was a starting card. Rage is a starting card. Tranquility. Chivalry is an advanced action. Meditation's a spell. Swiftness. Heroic Tales advanced. Expose is a spell. Stamina is basic. Cold Toughness is basic. It's my special Tovik, but it was in my basic deck, so it's not worth it. Intimidate. Don't confuse it with Threaten. That is an advanced action. Chill's a spell. Banner is an artifact. I already collected the banner that was under here. Basic. Artifact. Spell. Basic. Advanced action. Artifact. Basic. Advanced action. Basic. Alright, and I know I got all of my basic cards accounted for because there are 16 of them. I'll just look in these piles and glance at them and make sure those are all artifacts. Yes. These are all spells. Yes. And these are all advanced actions. Yes. Okay. So, once again, we are looking to find out greatest knowledge, greatest loot, greatest leader, greatest conqueror, greatest adventurer. Because I'm not dealing with titles, I don't necessarily need to do these in the order that I'm doing them, but just for clarity, for in case there's news players watching, I'm going to deal with greatest knowledge first. So that would be spells and advanced actions. Spells being worth 2, and advanced actions being worth 1. I have 10 spells and 7 advanced actions. So that would be 10 for the spells and 7 for the advanced actions, for a total of 17 added to my total. I'm at 162. So add 17 to that, and that is 179. And these are no longer going to factor into the scoring. Again, if I had titles on the table, that might grant me that additional +3, but there's no titles for me here. Okay, coming back up to the card. Greatest loot is 2 points for each artifact and 1 point for each pair of crystals in my inventory. I have 4 artifacts, so that's 8 points. And I have maximized my inventory. I have all 12 crystals that you can possibly hold. So that is 6 points to go with my 8 points. So those all told together are a total of 14 added to my final score. So that would be 193. This is pretty sick. The next category is greatest leader. What you do for greatest leader is you look at the level of your units, and each level of a unit in your employ is worth 1 point if that unit is not wounded. If the unit is wounded, the points that you're getting are cut in half. I think you can total the units, like total the unwounded units and then total the wounded units and divide the wounded in half, so that if you had a level 3 that was wounded, if you had 2 level 3s that were wounded, then they wouldn't be worth 1 and 1, but they might be worth 3 as a pair. I'm not sure about that. I don't know that it's clarified anywhere, but it's not relevant here because none of my units are wounded. The one wounded unit I had, I recruited over, so that wound went away. So I have 3, 7, 10, 14, 18. Okay, and it's just a straight up level equals points. So I am looking at adding 18 to my score. So that takes us to, let's do 7 to take us up to 200, and then another 11 would be 211 for 18. Okay, we've definitely broken 200, not a surprise. And we got a ways to go yet. Okay, now Greatest Conqueror is the monasteries, the keeps, and the mage towers. And then you look at that, and you have a title relevant to that. Then you have the adventure sites, which would be dungeons, tombs, spawning grounds, ruins, etc. And then you have a title for that. Just to make this simple, so that there's if you're not dealing with titles, there's no reason to separate these into two different categories. I'm just going to look at all the shields that are on the map and get 2 points each. Okay. Now, the shields, again, that are on the cities do not count. But I have, I've got one on the spawning ground here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Kind of backing up the way I came. And we'll just double check that. I came here, that's 1. Came around here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. So I have, as it turns out, 12 fortified sites, monasteries, I guess, monasteries, keeps, and mage towers, plus adventure sites. Total of 12 of them, and they're each worth 2. So that is 24 points added to our 211. So that takes us to 235. And we're not done. The Greatest Beating does not apply. That would again be your wound cards that you have in your deck. I don't have any, so there's nothing there to worry about. I don't take any penalties at all. We're done with that side, and again, we're not dealing with the conquest scenarios on the top. So what we're going to look at instead is the score from the bottom half of this second card, the right-hand side. We're going to get 10 per conquered city. There were 2 conquered cities. So that is another 20 points from 235 to 255. We get 15 if all cities were conquered. They were. So that takes us from 255 to 270. Wow. Okay, this went even higher than I thought. Plus 10 points if each player is a city leader, but that is co-op only. Therefore, it does not count for me. 30 points for each unplayed round. The way that would come into effect is if I had managed to beat both cities by the end of day 3 instead of night 3. There would have still been a round left that I could have used to meet the victory conditions. In virtue of going really, really fast and conquering everything early, you get that 30-point bonus. That said, what are you getting with the extra time that you're spending? My personal experience has been that I get more points out of taking longer and doing more and using that extra round to accomplish the collection of additional points. So that basically using the extra round usually nets me more than 30 points. So I don't find that finishing early, in my experience, has led to higher scores. But in the event that you do, you would get these 30 points. I did not, so I don't get them. You also get 1 point per card remaining in the dummy player's deck, and plus 5 if the end of the round was not announced on the last round. Now, nobody declared end of round. I certainly didn't. Taking the city doesn't constitute declaring end of the round. Otherwise, this wouldn't really apply. And I don't think that's the intention here, that it never applies in a conquest scenario. So that would be, for instance, if I had let the dummy player declare end of round and needed the additional time to pull it off. But nobody declared end of round, the way I'm reading this, and the dummy player still has 8 cards in his hand. This is, of course, where it's relevant that the rules for the scenario seem to indicate that he does not take a turn after I conquer the city. So this is where I'm going to claim 5 more points, possibly, than some people might argue I should. But as far as I read that, that is the way that that works. So I get, I believe, 5 points for having not declared end of round by anybody. And for the 8 points in his deck, it's another 8. 8 cards in his deck is another 8 points. So that's a total of 13 that I'm adding. 8 if you don't want to give me those 5 for the flop. But I think you get those 8. And that brings us to 13 would be 283. If I'm reading that correctly. Yeah, that looks like it. That's it. I think I covered everything. Greatest knowledge, greatest loot, greatest leader, greatest conqueror, adventurer, and all of those titles on the right hand side, those victory conditions. Yep. So that is our final score right there. That is a very respectable score. It's definitely the highest I've ever achieved. I don't anticipate maybe ever breaking that, although I play the crap out of this game, so maybe I will at some point get even luckier than I did. Yeah. I guess that's about all she wrote. That's how well we did. If you want to see my commentary on why I think we did as well as we did, that's at the end of the video on the last day. I went on and on about it, so I won't do it again. I will just say thank you very much for watching. We have our final resolution here. That is this level 283 points. That's a nice score. I'm very happy with that, proud of that. If I never exceed that, I will still be happy. I guess that's all I got to say. So thank you very much once again, and you all take care until I produce the next bit of effluvium for you to deal with. But until then, good luck out there killing things. Great hunting, and you take it to them, guys. I will see you around. Thank you once again. You all take care.